Hello and welcome to another episode of the More You Know podcast. Today, creating intellectual money, what it is and where to know how to find it. That's not the correct words.
No, but that's okay. Creating intellectual money
and knowing where to find it.
Knowing where to find it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which
So where we're gonna do is we're gonna get in the zone today.
Yeah, that's kind of where this whole thing is headed, is into zoning, right? It's kind of like AutoZone, right?
Get in the zone.
Get in the zone. AutoZone.
It's a terrible joke, but
I
we're
know
gonna
it's
run
a terrible,
with it.
terrible joke because guess what?
But if there wasn't zoning, or if they're not in the right zoning, the AutoZone wouldn't exist.
They wouldn't
in
exist.
that spot.
They would not exist on that spot. I know that to be the
100% fact.
It's a fact. Yeah.
Okay. So with that adage, like, what is zoning? What like overview do we need to know so we know people know where we're going?
First of all, zoning affects every property. You can live way out in the sticks somewhere where there's no zoning at all. You can do whatever you want to with your property.
Very few of those,
in civilization,
we're not knocking real people at all.
We're not really. So everybody out there in Montana that doesn't have
zoning,
that's sitting on 64,000 acres, this doesn't apply to you.
Doesn't pertain to
but
you.
If it's a planned community, what you have zoning, right? They set up land use and what you can and can't do with it, and zoning is generally controlled by the people that tell you what you can and can't do with your property. So that's kind of convenient.
So that's they.
Those
are those people.
That's
they people.
And the prospect of creating intellectual money comes from your ability to understand zoning, navigate it, and also influence what happens with it.
Right, because it can be changed. It's not easy, but it can be, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, no doubt about it. In fact, there are a lot of communities out there. We give shout-outs to the smaller communities because they're doing such a great job. The satellite communities to Grand Rapids proper,
right?
They're really forward-thinking. They're doing a lot of really great stuff, and they're actually moving their community along. So if we have a number of instances where we've aligned ourselves with that. We've actually listened to what the smaller communities have to add to the conversation. It's their community, and we kind of walk with them along.
But they have a pretty progressive look on their future, and thus their zoning master plans are changing to reflect that.
And great partnerships. Their economic development people, the city manager, all the the officers of the different committees and whatnot, the mayor.
Right.
Those are great relationships that we've had over the years. In some communities, the larger communities, it's a little bit more difficult to have that kind of intimacy personal touch. Yep.
Right.
So, but we are going to talk a little bit about what that is and how some examples about that, and how understanding and knowing what to do with zoning can actually put money directly in your pocket.
Right. Hence
Absolutely.
The intellectual knowledge for creating money.
And the intellectual money.
That's right. So, there's being able to work within the zoning, like ordinances and whatnot, and then there's being able to influence. So we're going to give a couple examples, and most of them are going to be kind of walking along with the zoning, but we'll get into all kinds of fun stuff with that. And I know fun and zoning don't normally go hand in hand.
No, but we're going to try to make zoning as fun as you could ever have.
Try very hard. We'll see how it goes.
We're going to see how this goes.
So we have a couple examples of how we're able to create some additional monies in properties based upon what their zoning was, right? So the first one we have, somebody who was a power of attorney for their family, right?
Yeah, we do. And this is a practical example of what you could come into. One of the instances that this would be of value to you is in this case, we do a lot of work with POAs, probates, executors of estates, conservators. It's just kind of one of those things we fell into years ago.
Right.
When we do a lot of work with people that have disabilities and are injured in car accidents, et cetera. So this was something that this was a recent example of how having knowledge of this particular
realm. Yep.
This realm can help us to achieve what the goals were.
Right.
And this one client's a great person, just great friend, awesome. and we were very fortunate to be the ones chosen to kind of help them through the process. And mom and dad are needing, the POA is there trying to make as much money out of the properties that they have so that they can continue the ongoing care
for their parents.
In assisted living and memory care.
Correct.
So a lot of people, it's an example because a lot of people are actually going through that right now.
Right.
A lot of people in my age
population.
group.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet, but
no, thank goodness, because it would be my responsibility.
Yeah. So in this particular case, there was a couple of properties, but the one that we want to talk about in specific was, it was in a platted community that really never looked like a platted community. You wouldn't have known that.
Right.
And why that was important is we had a certain number that we wanted to go ahead and realize. And we had some investigation that we needed to do, and the fact that it was a platted community means that although they had, in this particular case, other zoning that would have changed the amount of acreage that we needed to have per lot.
Per lot, yep.
It didn't really apply because to be able to change that plat, we would have had to gone back and amended the plat.
Right.
So it's an example of just tiny little things that allow us to go ahead and call the right person.
Right.
We had a really great partner in the, in the planner there, and we were able to answer enough of the questions without having to spend a bunch of money that two different buyers came to the window. There was a lot of, there's a lot of, push up in the price. Yep. We were able to hit the number. And on top of that, and you'll find this in a lot of instances where we are dealing with folks from family
members involved.
Yeah, there's a whole different element to it, and that's in this particular case, family members up and taking care of mom and dad,
visiting from out of state,
sibling, right?
Yep.
And it was really important, and it was really advantageous for us to take a deal from one of the buyers that would allow them to stay
use
in the property.
A little longer.
Exactly right. So it's good for the estate, good for the person, good for everybody.
Right.
Maybe
they might have been able to make a little bit more money, but the value was also in being able to stay
absolutely.
Yep.
So another example of how you can come across these things that are really they can pass you by if you don't really think about it or you're unaware, right? In this particular case, great client, one of the smartest clients, great clients we had.
They were extremely knowledgeable.
Very knowledgeable, and which made our job a lot easier because they had a property in an affluent community. One of them actually even sat on the zoning board, so that's good.
Right. Yep. That definitely benefited.
And just so you know, we've done the zoning board, right? We've done zoning board of we've done
appeals approval,
zoning board of appeals. We've done city commission. We've done historic preservation. We did just about every
the whole gamut.
Yeah,
much.
City council, all that stuff. Over the years, so it was really kind of an interesting thing to actually be dealing with a client that had expertise on being on the board.
On the actual board itself.
So a lot of that is just simply knowing that, hey, we have to have X amount of feet in the front to be able to split a lot off. We have to be able to get approval through this particular entity, know. And it was also, so the whole story was this. We came into the deal, it was an affluent community, they had a beautiful home, and they would like to realize a certain amount of money.
Right.
But this other lot that was over here, this potential for another lot, a buildable lot.
It was unsplit at this moment. Yep.
Yeah, it was unsplit. And we said, well, let's put it out there and let's see if somebody else realizes the value of that other property there and is willing to pay the price that you want, which was kind of less than what they started out wanting to achieve, right?
Right.
And as we marketed, it was kind of wintertime, so it wasn't, there wasn't the response that we actually needed to have. And there came a point in time where we had a couple of different offers in this price range for the whole property, but we thought, well, okay, that could be assigned to the house. So with their permission, we went out and arranged for a survey. They were very instrumental in pulling together utility costs, all these different things that we needed to know, and we were able to get soil samples, and that's kind of the risk that everybody runs. Is like, well, what if we find out that this lot is really not,
this
worth
buildable
as
lot
much?
isn't actually buildable, therefore not worth as much.
Right. So consequently, it's a push pull, and in this case, it was great. We had plenty of sand, everything was awesome.
Right.
And long story short on that, just because of zoning, we realized for $2,500, I think
It was about 25. Yep.
$2,500, we realized an upside of $300,000. That was the difference between what was offered on the property that was standing and what we were able to upside by spending a little bit of money and a little time and effort,
and then splitting that,
lot off. Yeah,
and I think that's the important distinction there. Is it was a little bit of money, but it was extra effort, which at first they didn't necessarily want to do. But then when we were starting to get these offers that were far too low, but were more assigned to the house and the property the house was on, making that change really made them hit their mark, and they're very happy. So that's
and so that's what I guess our point is this: zoning affects everything. Even if you were, if you're coming into a place where you have a property that's been inherited, or you're coming into the same situation this other client of ours was, and you have to start dealing with your parents' property for some reason. One of the things that I guess we've been doing it so long. We walk into a space like that, and immediately we're talking about how can we maximize the value of this property?
Right.
What are the elements that are there that would change this?
Right.
Because as an example, it's So what would be some of those examples that from just looking at certain conditions and things that are going on? What would that look like?
Well, I would say some of the biggest examples that you may or may not realize have happened even around your property, but certainly around a property that might belong to a family member and now you're in charge of it. They're going to be things like, somebody putting in a brand new highway. We have one in town that's not necessarily new these days because it's about 20 years old. However, when they put in new highways, it changes everything when it comes to zoning, because now you have, trucks, big trucks, semi-trailers are going to be able to come up and down roads that they would have had to travel miles to get to before, off of a highway. So new highways are going to be a big thing. Another one that's like less conspicuous than that is going to be if they're redoing streets, and then they're also adding sewer,
extending
services like sewer, water, electrical, gas, all those types of things. Those are a little bit more under the radar, but if those are happening, then all of a sudden your kind of rural development is being master planned in the background to be something much larger in the future.
A lot of people don't really realize that there is a future land use in pretty much everything.
Right.
If you're in a zone community, every one of those zone communities has a future land use plan,
and they are evolving.
They revise them, from year to year.
Right.
They have some times where they'll go 5 or 10 years, and then they'll bring all the community members back in and say, "This is what's been happening in our community. Where do you want the direction to go as a member or a citizen
from where we're
here?"
at now? Yep.
And so what we do a lot is, we know a lot of the people that are inside planning. Just because we've been doing this for a long time, but it's also inherent for us and really valuable for you guys as somebody who would be benefiting from this, is to make sure that the team that you're using, somebody that is advising you, is aware that, number one, the first thing we need to do is we need to talk to the planner. Secondly, we're looking at this and we're saying, we know where the water and sewer is, and it's as simple as this. If you're 10 years down the road from being, in a place where that property, that farmland property that belonged to your granddad, that 10 years from now, if that sewer and water, those services get extended, and it's part of, let's say, the industrial master plan, then, you might be seeing $20,000 acre property
currently
now go for, in today's dollars, go for $100,000 per acre. So.
And a great example of that 20 years ago happening more today is going to be Byron Center. I mean, it was all farmland, and now it's becoming subdivisions and things like that. So people that have been holding onto those for years and years are realizing quite a bit more money than they would if they were just selling as a farmland to somebody else.
Caledonia's that way.
Correct.
Allendale's becoming that way. As you go over, to the east, Lowell is that
Right.
way.
Yep.
So we're becoming a major metropolitan area, and just being aware of what's happening inside this particular avenue.
Right.
And it's about walking along with the different communities. It's about not trying to shove anything down their throats that they don't want, but if you can effectively have somebody walk with us,
Yep.
them,
Yep.
and
On their vision.
you as a
and-
client, and we create some value that wasn't there before. It
Yeah.
goes from this to this, and you didn't really do anything except either draw pretty pictures or have conversations. So it really didn't
Right.
cost you a lot.
Yep. Just a little bit of time and, just talking to the right people.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
And those are
Relationships.
just a few ways that we've obviously just scratched the surface. Those are
Absolutely.
just a few ways that you can create intellectual money by solving problems. And not to toot our own horn, but hey, it's our podcast, so we're going to.
I like that.
But we're pretty good at that. You're
Yeah.
very good at going into a boardroom with absolutely no relationships and creating some pretty great ones that
Yeah. Over
Bode
time,
well for us.
it happens differently with each one of the communities that we work with. But if you'd like to have more information about this, we're gonna kind of drive this home. We do these for information and for fun,
Right.
But then we are a little bit more in depth and a little bit more structured when it comes to writing
inside in the newsletter, which
accompanying
we do
newsletter,
every
right?
month. So the podcast is every 2 weeks, but the actual newsletter we do once a month. So it's it's written word. It's a little bit more in depth, which there you don't have you have
Might
more
be
time
easier.
to read it. Yeah.
Might be easier to understand than us blabbing,
Exactly,
right?
going back and forth.
We're all over the place.
Exactly. But if you're not, if you know what it is, please take a look at them. You can even go back and see old ones either in your email or on our website, which is expectmore.com. If you don't know what it is, you can go to the website, see previous ones, but you can also sign up there so you don't have to go looking for them or remember each month that they come out, and we can send them directly to your email. We do not like to spam. We hate getting spammed ourselves.
Right.
So you're not going to see a bunch of correspondence from us. In fact, it's usually, unless there's something major, it's usually just the one each month, and it's just the newsletter, which also has a link back to these podcasts. But yeah, we just wanted to try to make it fun, make it informative. I know zoning is not the most glamorous thing, but it's pretty glamorous when it means tens of thousands of dollars more in your pocket.
In your pocket.
That's pretty
Yep,
glamorous for
yeah,
me.
Absolutely.
I think so.
It really is. and we'll discuss things like adaptive reuse, of different buildings that exist. There's all different ways that you can use zoning
Yeah.
and different uses to expand your pocketbook.
Right.
So please come and check that out. Maybe take a look at our newsletter this
And
month.
they're all properties are different. So if you have specific questions, please just give us a call. We'll be happy to talk through whatever you got, and we'll do our best to solve some issues and kind of give you an idea of what you could do in the future to make your property more and create that intellectual money.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
You bet.
thank you so much for stopping by again. Stay tuned for the next More You Know podcast. See ya.